All right, this is lesson 214, and it is on rewriting expressions. All right, so the first thing I just kind of want to talk about is if you're trying to make 0 on this expression mat, can you think of a way that you could make 0? Now, we've talked about 0 pairs before, so one way is up here in this positive region, I could draw a positive tile and a negative tile. All right, I know that these together make 0 because it's a positive one and a negative one. Can you think of another way that I can make 0 but down in the negative region? Okay, well, let's think about it. Let's think if I drew a positive and a negative tile. Okay, now we're going to think what these really represent. So this tile is a positive 1 normally, but it's in the opposite region, right? Because it says negative. So this actually right here represents a negative 1. And this tile is really a negative 1, but it's in the opposite region, so it's really a positive 1. So think about that. Do those cancel each other out? Yeah, they do. They'd make a 0 pair. All right, so we have a problem here, and your directions might be to write an expression for this. So it kind of wants us to write what we have. So I'm going to write kind of a long one to start with. All right, so I'm going to look up at the top. Looks like I have 2 positive x's, a negative x, and a 1. So I'm going to write I have 2 x's plus a negative x plus a 1. That's in the top. Okay, plus, well, actually I'm going to erase that one. Okay, then in this negative region down here, I have 3 positives. So I'm going to write minus, or kind of the opposite of 3 positives. Let me write that a little bit better. Minus, oops. Opposite of 3 positives, which is 3 negatives. So I kind of just wrote that out. That would be an expression that shows that. It's in the negative region, so I wrote minus, or opposite of positive 3, because there's 3 positives, which is negative 3. Okay, now you could go through and simplify that, which I know you guys know how to do. If you have 2x and negative x, well, together that would be x. And then you have 1 and then minus 3, or if you want, you could add the opposite. That would leave me with negative 2. So that would be that expression. Now, let me show you a way that I kind of do it when I'm working with equation mats, or expression mats, that maybe will help you get kind of sorted out right away. What I usually do is, this says, since these 3 tiles down here are in the opposite region, in the negative region, I think, well, what would they really be? So I'm going to take these 3 positive tiles. The opposite of that is 3 negative tiles. So I'm just going to move those up here and put them as 3 negative tiles. Now I am done with those. Okay, so now let's kind of look up here. Let's see what I have. Well, I see this positive x and this negative x cancel. This positive 1 and this negative 1 cancel. So I'm left with an x tile right here plus 2 negative tiles. Or I could write that as x minus 2. Same thing. Now if you look, is that the same thing we got down here the other way? Yes, it is. All right, let's look at another example of this. So again, you could write the expression right away. Let me just kind of show you. Up on the top, I have a positive tile, so positive x, 2 negative x's, and 2 negative 2 tiles, or 1 tile. So I'm going to just kind of write that out. I have x plus negative 2x plus, I'm just going to go to the next line, plus negative 2. Okay, then I'm going to have to write what I have down below. Now I'm in the negative region, so I'm going to write minus, or opposite of 2 negative tiles. So I'm going to write minus, because it's in the opposite region, negative 2. Okay, now I'm going to go through and kind of simplify this. So if I have an x and negative 2 x's, well, that's going to leave me with a negative x. Okay, down here I'm going to add the opposite, and I have negative 2 and positive 2, which leaves me 0. So I think that's what I should be left with. All right, now let's come down to our mat, okay? And again, here's what I kind of like to do. These tiles down here are in the opposite region. So why don't I just kind of flip them to what the opposite would be? Because this minus sign can mean opposite. So the opposite of 2 negative tiles, I'm going to come put up here, is 2 positive tiles. I better shade them in because that's positive. Now I'm done with those. Okay, now if we come up to the top, let's do some of our simplifying here. Okay, so if we do that, I see a positive and a negative x cancel out. And positive and a negative 1, positive and a negative 1. All I'm left with is negative x, which is what I had. So I just kind of simplified that. All right, why don't you guys try to simplify this one? All right, push pause, and when you're ready to check it, push play. All right, so maybe right away you guys thought, well, this is the opposite region, so let's change these 3 negative tiles to positive tiles. So I'm going to come up here, draw 1, 2, 3 positive tiles because it's the opposite. Okay, get rid of those because I just moved them. And then this, it's in the opposite region, so the opposite of positive x would be a negative x. So I better move a negative x up here. Okay, got rid of that. All right, so now let's go ahead and see if we can simplify this. Well, here's a positive x and a negative x. Those cancel. So those are gone. A positive x, or positive 1, negative 1, positive 1, negative 1. Let's see what I have left. I have an x left, plus I have 2 positive tiles, so it would simplify to x plus 2. All right, now, a lot of you guys probably do not like to use algebra tiles, so let's see if we were going to do this algebraically. Okay, so again, think what this negative sign out here can mean. It can mean opposite. So let's think if we want to do the opposite of negative 2y, which would be positive 2y. I'll just keep my plus sign in the middle, just keep that. And then the opposite of 1, which is negative 1. So I just simplified it, and now it looks like this. Okay, now we could have done this a different way. Let me just kind of show you if you like this way better. I'm going to just rewrite it quick. Some of you guys like to do the distributive property, and you like to stick a 1 right here. Maybe that helps you a little bit better. So you can kind of think, well, what's negative 1 times negative 2y? Well, negative times a negative is a positive 2y plus, now I'm going to do negative 1 times 1, which is negative 1. I got the same answer either way. Okay. Why don't we watch another one being done? Now this one's a little more tricky. So I have this 3x out front. I can just keep that, 3x. All right, now this minus sign, this is the tricky part. So it has a minus sign. You need to distribute that to both of these things here. Okay, so I need to do the opposite of 2x, the opposite of 4. Okay, so when you guys do this, there's a couple ways to think of it. So if you want, some people are going to want to do this. They're going to want to add the opposite and just put that negative sign there. That way they know there's a plus sign that's going to be there. If that helps you, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do that. I still got that negative sign there. Okay, so now I'm going to think, well, I have to do the opposite, right? The opposite of 2x. So think opposite of 2x is negative 2x. Okay, then I have plus, so I better write plus down. And then I need to do the opposite, here's the opposite of 4, which is negative 4. Okay, so now I still just need to do a little more simplifying. Let's put our x's together. So 3x and negative 2x. Well, 3 plus negative 2, that would just leave me with 1x plus my negative 4. Another way to write that would be x minus 4. That says the same exact thing. So either one of these answers would be correct. All right, here's even one more long one. Why don't you push pause, try this one out, write it down, see what you get, and then you can watch me go through it. Push play when you're ready. All right, let's look at this one. This one looks a little more difficult. So I got my 7 up here. I can keep that. So 7. Now, I tend to like, because this negative sign or this opposite sign needs to be distributed to both of these numbers here, to this and this. So I kind of like just kind of putting this as a plus sign right here and putting the negative there. I added kind of the opposite. That way I know I can just write the plus symbol. So if that helps you, you can go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to distribute this negative sign to the 4y. So I'm going to rewrite that as it's the opposite of 4y, which is negative 4y. Okay, now we need to come on the inside. And again, sometimes I know you guys get confused with all these minus signs here. You can either keep the minus, bring it straight down here, okay, or you can, if you want, you could add the opposite right there if that makes it easier for you. Add the opposite. So then I could put a plus sign here if I did it that way. Now I'm going to do the opposite of negative 3, which is a positive 3. Okay, then back here I can just keep this stuff. So plus 2y minus 4. All right, let's kind of go through this now and see what we got. Okay, let's put our y's together. We have negative 4y and 2y. Well, I have more negatives, so it would be negative 2y. Okay, that's done. And then I have 7 plus 3, which is 10, and then minus 4 here. So 10 minus 4 is 6, so plus 6. So this would be my simplified answer. All right, now I'm just going to erase this quick, so bear with me. Actually, it won't let me erase it, so I'm just going to point out something to you guys quick. So again, you didn't have to put this plus sign right here. You could just distribute that minus right there as well. So I'm going to show you guys just one more. All right, so here's what I got. Let's do 5 minus 4y minus 8. Okay, I'm going to show you one more way to do this, and then you kind of have to pick which way you like. So the 5 stays. All right, you got this minus sign here. Now you can just keep it like that, and you can distribute it to this 4y. So I kind of think, well, opposite of 4y is negative 4y. So I can write that like this. That says, right there, that says negative 4y or minus 4y. It's the same thing. Now I'm going to come here, and I might think like, you could think of it a couple different ways. You can put that together, okay, and then I need to do the opposite of negative 8, which is positive 8, and then I would just write plus 8. Okay, then I could put the 5 and the 8 together, which is 14, and then minus the 4y. Okay, so you can do it that way if you like that way better. So you guys are going to have to kind of choose which way works best for you, and we're going to keep practicing those.